Welcome back. Max Verstappen is your winner here in Qatar. However, 10-second stop-and-go penalty for Lando Norris totally ruined his race. He picked up the DHL fastest lap, finished in 10th, 2 points to his name. Let's get his side of events.
I'm sure you stand here very, very frustrated. It felt a harsh penalty. That's what everyone observed afterwards. Even now, do you still think it's harsh or not?
Honestly, I don't know what I've done wrong at the minute. Apparently I didn't slow under the yellow. I'm not an idiot. If I knew there was a yellow, I would have slowed down. I don't know if I've missed it or just been dumb. But yeah, if the rule is if you don't slow down under the yellow, that's the penalty. So it's a fair penalty.
Okay, fair enough. Given the pace you had today, do you sense it was an opportunity missed even on the hard tyre at the end? You were a second quicker than Max.
Yeah, I had a clean air at the end, but I mean, of course, there's an opportunity missed.
Yeah.
That's quite obvious. So,
what about the constructors now? It's still a reasonably healthy lead you have going into the final Grand Prix. Different circuit, obviously. What level of optimism do you have that you can close this out?
High. I mean, the team gave me a great car today, so I'm thankful for the team. I'm disappointed that I couldn't have done a worse job than I did today and not give them the points they deserve. So I've made the job of the team much harder than it needs to be. So, you know, the team are doing a great job, but I've let them down.
Thank you.
Well, there you go. I mean, there's a lot of you, I know a lot of you at home are completely miffed, Lando Norris fans are, that he's got such what seems like a very, very harsh penalty, but he's saying he didn't see it, deserved the penalty himself. What's your take on it? Does it matter whether it was double wave yellows or normal yellows?
Well, the thing is, Simon, you have to lift under a double-waved yellow, and now there's going to be some confusion from the fans because they might be thinking, well, all we saw was a single yellow at the time.
I mean, they might have picked it up anyway, but he planted the seed, didn't he? You just said he's got the capacity to do that.
He reacted to yellow flags without the help of a light, without his engineer telling it. He just saw it, knew what he was doing, and then dobbed in his mate, who we guessed didn't lift.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's what it takes when you go up against Max Verstappen. You have to get absolutely everything right. And in this moment, whilst, yes, the light only came on at the last second, Max didn't even have the lights, and he still saw the double-waved yellow down the road. So it's a hard one. It is very, very, very harsh, though. I don't know if it's necessary to have a double-waved yellow flag for a mirror on a straight where there's great visibility. Is it as much of a danger as a double-waved yellow, or would a single yellow have been enough for this sort of scenario?
Well, Jensen called it absolutely right. What they should have done is either virtual safety car or a safety car and clear it up safely, because what ended up happening with Bottas destroying it caused potentially some punctures and a worse situation because of it not being under a safety car.
Poor old Rui Marquez comes in, but you know, he's going to be under the microscope here because that's the point, and I think that's the point where a lot of Lando Norris fans are going to be pretty unhappy about, in that it took, what, four laps, was it, before the safety car came out? It took for the mirror to be run over by Valtteri Bottas, cause all that debris, for that to be called. It should have been called earlier,
and the problem for people saying, oh, the stewards, it's too harsh. They've got the rule book. So they see double wave yellow, driver didn't lift, they open the rule book, what's the penalty? It's a 10-second penalty. They've got no wriggle room. They don't just make up these rules. It's in the book. They can't do anything. They've got their hands tied.
Unfortunately, there's no penalties for the stewards making the wrong call, is there? You know, if they would have put out that safety car earlier, I mean, it took them...
But is that... sorry, it's just a... Sorry, be pedantic. That's not the stewards that make the call. That's race director.
Race director's decision was obviously they could have put out the safety car, they could have put out the virtual safety car. They waited until they had 2 punctures. I think Sainz had already changed his tyres and come back out before the safety car came out. So it was a bit of a delayed reaction there.
Wonder what the FIA president might do about this one. We'll have to watch the track record at the moment. Wouldn't like to be Rui Marquez. Right, okay, let's hear from Andrea Stella.
Well, Andrea, very eventful. Lots of decisions there that affected the outcome of the race. What's your view?
Well, the race itself was actually unfolding in a very strong way. I think after the stop, we knew that the hard tyres was actually a good tyre for our car. We were optimistic in terms of the final result with Lando, and then this was affected overall result, obviously, dramatically by the penalty. Which meant that we only come out with Lando with 2 points when it could have been a victory. On Oscar's side, he did very well. he did well in finishing on the podium. Actually, he lost the position because of the safety car, which gave an advantage to Leclerc, but this is a racing situation. Sometimes you gain, sometimes you lose with the safety car. And important points for Oscar that keep us still in a solid position in the championship. But definitely we have the sense that we have missed a significant opportunity to close the matter here in Qatar.
I saw you looking at the telemetry. Did Lando lift or not lift under that yellow? And when have you known a consistent penalty for that kind of thing being a 10-second stop-and-go penalty, which is given pretty rarely?
So we checked the data. Effectively, Lando stays flat out. We have to say that the sector appeared yellow as soon as Lando had entered the sector, but the requirement is very clear. You need to lift, and it's the responsibility of the driver to recognize that you are in a yellow sector and you need to back off. At the same time, I think it's quite peculiar that the yellow flag was deployed and then was removed, but actually the situation in that sector was the same. There was a debris on track, but at some time it deserved a yellow flag, and then a few seconds after it didn't, which is just unfortunate, I would say. And then I think in the application of the penalty, I think we have lost any sense of proportion and any sense of specificity. Can we look specifically at the infringement at the level of danger associated to the situation, and in fact the yellow flag was removed, and then judge using these kind of elements, proportion and specificity, rather than taking a look at any kind of rule book, probably full of dust on top of it, and then apply it without any sense of critical approach. So from this point of view, I think there's an opportunity to do better from the FIA.
Okay. I'm sure it will be a matter of much discussion over the next few days. See you in Abu Dhabi. Thank you.
But it will be, won't it? Because as we're saying, and there is a serious point to that, there has been a lot of chopping and changing at the FIA recently. You know, Nils Wittich gone, Rui Marquez has been asked to do Academy F2 and F1 this weekend, and clearly Andrea Stella is aggrieved there. Do you think, I mean, we've just gone through it on the SkyPad. Anthony understands, you know, they followed it, they've got a set rule book that they've got to stick to, but there's also common sense as well that needs to prevail, and perhaps it was chucking the safety car a little bit earlier.
Yeah, that, of course. But in terms of the rules are the rules,
yeah,
as Anthony said. So they're kind of stuck
yeah,
with, there's a double wave yellow, we have to give them that penalty. It sounds unbelievably harsh, you know, compared to a car being upside down in the middle of the track, which is dangerous because there's marshals on the track with a double waved yellow, and there could be a driver stuck in the car, compared to a wing mirror sitting in the middle of the track. Very different, and that's where the rule is the issue. It's a set rule that needs possibly looking at for the future.
And I think I'm right in saying he had to serve that, didn't he, within 2 laps as well. So actually, just after the safety car had gone in, he then has to serve the penalty, and it just dropped him all the way down. So there wasn't even any freedom for him there. That's why I think a lot of McLaren fans will feel aggrieved.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate thing. When he eventually had to serve that penalty, there was only a 17 gap from first to last at the time, which I think was only 15 cars. So with the big pit loss here anyway, and the time penalty that he had, he was always going to drop to last. But the thing is, they took really long to bring out that decision, which means that I think they had to go back through everyone's laps, because I was wondering, had Max just signaled to them, check Lando? But the fact it took them as long as it did to come up with that decision, I have the feeling they really wanted to double check that everybody did lift, and in which case it does hurt Lando that whilst we agree that the situation maybe didn't deserve 2 double wave yellows, the double wave yellows were out there, and the driver doesn't know what's next at turn 1, if there's someone on track or not. So they need to make the right decision in that moment, whether or not the situation is correct.
What it does mean is that 21 points is now the gap between McLaren and Ferrari going into Abu Dhabi. Added jeopardy, and it keeps us all very interested until the final checkered flag of the season.
I mean, it swung around within... Unbelievable, wasn't it? It looked like they were so close to clinching the constructors. They weren't going to clinch the constructors, but it meant they had to get a couple of points at the next race, whereas now it's a lot closer. It's 21 points, and Ferrari are going to be quick in Abu Dhabi.
You think?
Yeah.
I mean, that's it, isn't it? I mean, as we were saying there, it was actually the first part of the race, it was all very calm. We're thinking, going through the motions, etc., etc. Then bang, it all happens with that ring mirror coming off.
Yeah, and I felt that both McLarens were really just sitting pretty, managing their tyres. I know Max was managing a little bit, but it felt as if Lando was looking quite racy out there, and ultimately we didn't get to see that battle go right down to the line. But again, next week's a whole new set of challenges, a very different circuit. Traction is going to be more necessary. There's a lot more braking points, heavy braking points, I should say, which is a little bit more suited to Ferrari than maybe it is to McLaren. So I think it should be tighter between them, and great for the fans to be able to see that battle go right down to the end.
Okay, we're going to come on to Max and that masterclass soon, along with the Mercedes. Really, really disappointing day for them. But let's concentrate on that battle for the Constructors' title and hear from both the Ferrari drivers.
Carlos, it was a pretty crazy race out there today, but ultimately you gained some valuable points. You fought for everything.
Yeah, but I think today we lost more than we gained. As an opportunity, obviously we were running in a good position behind Charles, and we had a puncture right as I was coming around the last corner. Didn't have time to come in the pits, and I had to do a full lap on a punctured tire. That made me lose a lot of time. On top of that, the safety car came out when I came out of the pits rather than while I was punctured. So, yeah, a very unlucky situation there that cost us a lot of race time, a lot of obviously points, and yeah, a bit of a shame because we could have got a lot more points today, but sometimes racing is like that.
You and Lewis both got punctures there. People were surprised there wasn't a virtual safety car or a safety car to clear that debris. It's a new race director. I mean, I don't know if we want to pin the blame on him, but were you as drivers thinking that?
No, the race was running smoothly up until then, and you never expect this kind of thing to happen. I didn't expect it at all to happen, but for some reason, yeah, I got a sudden puncture, and with a very unlucky situation that I had to do a full lap with a puncture.
Ciao, Carlos.
Ciao.
Yeah, so Carlos Sainz, a victim of that debris. It was also towards the end of a long stint on those tyres, so that can't have helped either. Also, Lewis Hamilton having a few issues with that. He picked up a puncture, but as I mentioned, we'll come on to that. Yeah, I mean, that's it. It was just... there were a few people actually asking on our WhatsApp group whether it was to do with the fact that we're coming to the end of long stint. There would be tyre wear on top of the debris, but it looked like it was just the debris that caused those, wasn't it?
It's a big coincidence, if not.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I mean, the tyres were getting old. They would have been wearing down, and it's always going to be that left front. But... yeah, it's a hell of a coincidence, right?
Yeah, too right. But actually, it's cost Carlos and it's cost Lewis today.
It did cost them both, and they did all go past the optimum window. I don't know, obviously those are some conservative windows from Pirelli that we get, but the optimum window was up to lap 25, and they went way past, well, just a little bit past lap 30 before they ended up getting those punctures. So were the tyres already worn down a little bit? Did the debris then, the two sort of things coming together, maybe induce that puncture to happen a little bit more? Just unfortunate for them that it came down to that.
OK, we'll come back to Charles Leclerc. Let's bring in the driver of the day. And as Crofty said in commentary, he went, yes, because it's Zhou Guan Yu. Zhou, many congratulations. First points of the year, how does that feel?
It's a relief, I think happy is probably not the word, relief is the word. It's been a long season, that where we come from, beginning of the year, throughout the season. Never expect to have a car that fighting for points, and since Vegas, this new package, I just been a lot comfortable, and the whole team is just being thereabouts. We are there today. It was a very intense race.
It obviously means a lot to the team. We were just seeing everyone hugging on the screen there.
Yeah, I think it's a well credit for everyone, because not an easy season. A lot of, let's say, constructor side changing inside outside the team, also back in the factory. We have to get involved, getting used to all this new stuff from the team, and then putting the car where we wanted it to, because clearly expectation is much higher than what we hoped. And yeah, great race. Pace was strong as well. So yeah, I actually didn't know I was driver of the day.
Well,
I got to know before the TV pan. So yeah, happy, and thanks for the fans voting for that. So
I think they all really wanted you guys to get that point. I mean, it's been a long season, a pointless season, and finally that comes to an end right before the end. But as you say, you guys have got a lot much better pace since this new package. What is it feeling like in the car?
Yeah, it's been, let's say, mentally a draining season for us, for me and Valtteri and the whole team. And then we knew coming to the weekend, this is our best opportunity after amazing Saturday performance, and then we wanted to show what we can do, and today's race, I think, was very clean and executed well. And for everyone, you know, there's a lot of work people don't see behind the scenes, and just continue to be there every weekend, hoping something will be, you know, in return. And today is the day. So
it's not just points either. I mean, for us watching, there seemed to be a lot of action. You were lots of fighting, lots of overtaking, blocking, and it must feel nice to get back into that zone where you can actually have a proper fight out there.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's I've been missing, you know, this proper racing wheel-to-wheel feeling for a while, at least the last triple header before this one. And then I'm just delighted to be able to do what I know the best, which is race wheel-to-wheel, to be there fighting for a top 10. And then on the other hand, you know, the race I have to really fight for it. The last safety car was this new hard. There was never switching on the first 4 laps. And you really have to suffering, and made it work. So
final one from me. No seat at the moment for next year, but we know that GM Cadillac are coming in 2026. You've got a few friends down that way as well. Are you keeping a keen eye on what might happen down there?
I mean, for my side, you know, I think nobody remember your first race. You know, everybody remember your last race. So I want to enjoy as much as I could the remaining one more last race for the team, and put myself in the best way possible, leaving the grid for next year and then waiting for a comeback. I will take every opportunity to come back for a seat. And I'm sure when the chance is here, I can do a much better job. And then, yeah, let's see what the future brings. But try to enjoy the moment and then, you know, show the paddock what I can do.
Well done, Joe. Really appreciate it. Best of luck for your last race in Abu Dhabi of the season. Perhaps not. Let's bring another one. Pierre Gasly. Pierre, I tell you what, I mean, your form of late, I'll give it going as well for one of those, because it's been exceptional. You look at what happened in Las Vegas. In qualifying, looked exceptional. Race, you got unlucky. But you made that one count. Congratulations, another big haul of points. Hugely important for not just you, but for the team.
Yeah. No, thank you. It was an incredible race. Top 5, second best result of the year, and yeah, what a timing to do it. You know, just going into the last weekend of the year. So as I've said earlier, I'm just really proud of the team, because looking at a couple of months ago where we were on the grids, down the order in the Constructor Championship, fighting for 9th, struggling to get a point out of a race. And you know, the last few weekends, as you said, we've been absolutely flying, and the team gave me a good call. The car was really strong, really enjoyable to push it to the limit today, and great battle as well at the end with Carlos. So it was a fun day out there.
You had a sensational qualifying out in Vegas, but it ended in heartbreak. Yeah. So how good does it feel today to cross the line with so many points?
Last week wasn't it wasn't the night I expected in Vegas. It wasn't the luck wasn't on my side, but I knew we had potential, and even yesterday, you know, we had potential to fight in that top 10. Obviously, the top teams were faster, but today you know, the race came our way with everything that happened, and at the end we were in a position where we had to defend, and I quite enjoyed that as well. Like it's not every race this year I had a top 5 in my hands, so I wasn't going to give it easy to Carlos, and yeah, I'm glad we managed to hold on to it.
Yeah, this must be a lovely way to see out the season. This is such an important time for you, for the whole team. Going into 2025, you're obviously going to be the more experienced, the lead driver of the team. Just tell us how that feels.
I think it's honestly it's very impressive, but as you say, it brings me optimism and also confidence that we're heading in the right direction. They managed to find a lot of performance on that car. I tell you, it wasn't fun to drive the first few races. Didn't respond well, and on a day like today, we really managed to nail the balance. And there's still a few things to improve, but looking at it overall, we are in a great place. I know we're going to make another step forward next season. So it's all coming together, and it's great to end the year on a high.
Now, Pierre, I know you said that you weren't ever going to give the position easily to Carlos, which you clearly didn't, but did you ever really think that the car was going to be quick enough to keep him behind? I mean, to think that the Alpine can stay ahead of the Ferrari, how far have you guys come?
It was faster, but then, you know, it's not easy in that last sector in all the high speed. To be fair, it was just flat out. I was keeping my foot to the floor throughout the whole section. That was very exciting.
How's your neck?
It's okay. We had the safety car to rest and get ready for the last few laps, but it's really like a very exciting track, and it put a lot of pressure. I was just trying to really nail these last couple of corners, get a good exit. He had 3 times a good run, but I covered him twice on the inside, once on the outside, and in the end it was fine. But yeah, it was exciting, and it's a lot more fun when you fight at the front.
Flavio with the Midas touch, eh? Comes in. Look at this. It's all flipped round, man. Him and you as a combo. Fantastic. Well done.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Great stuff. Let's go back to the Ferrari and McLaren battle and hear from Charles Leclerc.
Charles, is the chief thing you take from today the result? Was the result better than the outright pace of the car today?
Definitely, definitely. I think coming into the weekend, we never really said it within the team, but I think everybody expected that McLaren will score more points over the weekend than us. So it's a very good surprise to be going out of Qatar with less points in between the two teams, and as much as it's going to be a bit of a stretch to get that constructors, I mean, it's going to be very difficult. Everything needs to be perfect in Abu Dhabi, and we'll try to make it so. We'll give it all until the very last lap. We've seen it today. Today was very unexpected to finish in front of both of the McLarens. It happened. We had a little bit of luck, of course, but that's part of racing, and I'm really happy.
Should it be a slightly better track for you, just in terms of your car's characteristics, Abu Dhabi?
Yes. It should be a little bit better. I think this track was probably the worst one for us. Abu Dhabi, though, we cannot expect to be the strongest car, but we definitely should be a bit closer to McLaren, especially in race pace. They were really super strong today. When I knew what Lando was doing in terms of lap times, I was not at all close, so it would have been very difficult.
Well done.
Thank you.
Actually, a classy drive, you have to say, from Charles Leclerc today, because that was a stuttering Ferrari for the rest of the weekend, but he kept his head in trying circumstances because it wasn't an easy race from anyone's perspective. So much going on.
Well, it was theirs, to take advantage of. As I said at the beginning of the race, I thought McLaren would maybe play it a little bit safely because all they needed to do was finish ahead of them. So ultimately, he just hung on in there. He got past when he needed to. Obviously, Lando had the penalty, so that helped. But it's a good result today for Ferrari, and a lot still needs to happen in Abu Dhabi for them to get ahead, but they already put themselves one step closer.
Yeah, I mean, we're saying before this race, actually, it's almost two hands on the trophy for McLaren. It's still one hand.
It is, but as we can see, as you said, anything can happen. And it seems that way in Formula One at the moment. So great for us, but just such a high, tense situation for everyone involved. But a great job by Charles Leclerc. The perfect drive. Didn't have the pace in the McLarens and Lando, but he got the most out of it.
I could see you doing it. I was going to go on.
I was
just going to say, at the rate that they're dishing out penalties, people are going to really have to go home and study the rule books this weekend and not get anything wrong next week, because it could cost you.
And setting precedents as well with one-place grid penalties. Yeah, we'll be keeping an eye on that next week, that's for sure. We're going to take a short break.
Thank you very much, Simon. Yes, welcome down to the Alpine motorhome. Well, things didn't end well for Esteban Ocon at the Qatar Grand Prix, but I can confirm now that things have ended completely for Esteban Ocon in terms of him being an Alpine driver. Those few hundred metres were his last as an Alpine driver. He will be replaced by Jack Doohan, who has got that seat for next year, at next week's Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Now, this isn't an immediate sacking or anything like that. This is a plea bargain. So I understand the situation from the team is that Esteban Ocon, as you see, over my right shoulder, was very keen to do the test, the post-season test, on the Tuesday after the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix for his new team, Haas. And he went to Flavio Briatore, the man who makes decisions here at Alpine, and says, Flavio, can I do the test? And Flavio's like, well, what's in it for me? It seems that they've reached a deal, maybe influenced by what happened at the first corner, maybe not, we don't quite know. And Flavio's deal is, okay, you can do the test for Haas if you don't race in Abu Dhabi for Alpine, because I'd like to give Jack Doohan a running start at next year's Alpine employment. So that is the deal that has been struck. Esteban Ocon, who's been, he qualified last, didn't he, Simon? So he's clearly not getting on well with this Alpine as it is at the moment. The new front wing and the new nose went straight to Pierre Gasly. Ocon didn't get a sniff of the upgrade this weekend. Ocon clearly hasn't been something right in the car, and he's decided to effectively miss the rest of the season for Alpine so that he can do the Haas test, his new employers, on the Tuesday after the Grand Prix. So, goodbye and adieu, Esteban Ocon. That was it. It didn't work out particularly well. He parted company officially with Alpine for next year under the previous team boss Bruno Famin earlier in the year, and it looks like Esteban Ocon, well, that's confirmed my understanding from the team, will not see out the season for Alpine. That's the news down here. Strange, isn't it, in a way, Simon, when they're celebrating the glorious P5 from Pierre Gasly that's put them back into 6th in the constructors. But hey, good day to bury bad news, perhaps.
Well, yeah, but I'll come back to you on this one, Ted, before I ask these two here. But actually, they've gone 5 points ahead of Haas, as far as I understand it, in the constructors. So it's a bit of a risk, isn't it, bringing in Jack Doohan last race? There's still a lot at stake here.
Well, not if you think that Esteban Ocon would have been able to score points in Abu Dhabi. And judging by the evidence of this weekend, Ocon at any point was really nowhere near looking like he was going to get into the points. Flavio's a clever man, Simon Lazenby. You know, say what you want about old Flav. He knows what's going on. And he knows that in Pierre Gasly, he has the man who can score the points if they need to in Abu Dhabi to secure that P6. Something was going on with Esteban Ocon. He has not been competitive. This is something out of kilter with the race. Yeah. It's worth more to Flav and Jack Doohan to get him up and running for next year and to rely on Gasly to get the points they need to secure P6 in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I mean, despite him being a race winner, he is moving to the opposition that they're competing with. And I'd never say anything bad, by the way, Ted, about Flav. I would not dare to say anything bad about Flav. Let's get into that, though. I mean, actually, with regards to that, okay, it's not the ideal end for Esteban's career, but Haas were the ones paying the salary from next year.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a nice situation for a driver to be taken out before the end of the season, but he's got his priorities. He wants to get into the Haas before the end of the year, so I totally get it. I also think it's the right decision if you don't have enough of the upgraded parts. You know, if Pierre has the upgraded front end and it's making that much more of a difference, you might as well put, you know, the guy that's been in the car for next year to get a bit of experience wheel-to-wheel in a Formula 1 car, even though his pace won't be there. And I've possibly said some bad things about Flav. Just thought I'd throw that out there.
Rather you than me.
I think it's a risky decision. I mean, firstly, for Esteban, it's a shame. I mean, I know it seems like it's a mutual decision, but to end your time at Alpine by, you know, missing the last race together, that's a bit of a shame. But at the same time, I don't know, conspiracy theorists might say, well, there's 5 points between Haas and Alpine. Which team is he playing for? I'm not the one who said it. It's just a conspiracy theory, guys, just saying.
It is.
But no, look, I think it's a risky decision. I mean, Jack, obviously, they trust in him. They're bringing him in next year, but he's never raced in a Formula 1 race. So with only a 5-point gap, with Magnussen and Hulkenberg, both very, very experienced drivers in the seats of those pretty quick Hasses, we shall see.
You're the only one that picked that. We've got very pure thoughts, myself and Jensen. We're never thinking down those lines. Right, let's hear from Max Verstappen, race winner.
Well, tremendous victory today, Max. Great off the line. Does it compare well, even with Brazil, the win in Brazil this?
Brazil is so much better in terms of how important it was. But what I think was very nice today is that, of course, it was a dry win. Yeah. And that has been quite a while for us. And, of course, with that, I'm really happy. It just seemed like we were finally back in that fight on pure merit. And especially in that first stint, it was really enjoyable with Lando. Honestly, the gap was on average like 1.8 seconds, and we just kept pushing each other flat out. And, yeah, that you know, I've nothing to lose anymore, but I still want to try and win. And yeah, with Lando as well, I've been fighting him for most of the season, that we were pushing each other flat out in that stint on the tires as well. I enjoyed a lot.
Yeah, Jenson Button raised the fact that a champion like yourself can have the race awareness, and you called it. I mean, in terms of Lando not slowing on the yellows, but you've got to have that awareness in a situation like that.
Yeah, I mean, I just saw the double yellow, so I lifted, and I think at that point also Lando picked up a DRS from a back marker, and I just asked the team, like, did he lift? Because when I came out of turn one, it looked like he caught up quite a lot. It's just things that you check, and it caught my eye with the yellow flag that you have to lift, and yeah.
Just one more race to go. I know you met with the FIA president today. just finally, are you sorting things out with him? Can you have a dialogue with him? Can it be a positive relationship between yourself, the stewards, the governing body?
But for me, between myself and the president, we call each other here and there already throughout all the years that he's been president. And I think it's always good to discuss with him also what I think of certain situations, what he thinks of certain situations, and we keep that dialogue open.
Well done. Thank you.
Christian, you were saying a little bit earlier, well done, by the way, and well done to Max, that if it was a masterclass of driving in the wet in Brazil, today was a kind of psychological and tactical masterclass by your lead driver. Would you agree with that? Did he get in George's head before the start? Do you think he got into the steward's head as well, just by saying, oh, did Lando have a little lift there? Very clever.
Well, he was annoyed with, I think, George, the way that things played out in front of the stewards yesterday, and that he carried that motivation into the race, and that was clearly evident that he was super motivated going into this race. He got an amazing start.
Actually, it's a significant disadvantage, that inside.
I think there was a little bit of a moment between the two of them on the trailer as they go around the circuit or whatever earlier I think Max, you know with him that he felt that things just went a bit too far yesterday. And he was so motivated coming into this race, even more than usual. But he delivered the most amazing performance. I mean, he was just like a metronome, just lap after lap, whilst looking after those tyres. You know, in the high-speed corners, he wasn't taking as much energy out of the tyre. That gave him the longevity, because we're in this weird situation where the tyres were getting faster and faster as they were getting down to the canvas. And then obviously the punctures started coming.
I guess that's what happens when you wake the lion, right? Be careful of waking up the lion. They upset him yesterday. Today he came back fighting. Have you ever known a driver, at least in your team, that has as much capacity as Max Verstappen? And what do you think it comes down to? I mean, some say he's got more toothpaste in his tube than others. Others have to really squeeze everything out. And Max just wakes up and does it like it's easy peasy.
Well, he's got this incredible ability to drive the car, absolutely on the limit, but have total awareness of what's going on around him. So, of course, there was then the issue with the debris on the straight and the yellow flag. And I think because he felt that he'd had a hard time from the stewards yesterday, he wanted to make very sure that they were having a good look and treating with an even hand, Lando not lifting on the straight. So, that's just the capacity that he has. And but I have to give full credit to the team as well this weekend, because we were not in a good place in the sprint. Some big setup changes, a lot of hard work behind the scenes, and they've given him a car today that he's been able to go out and deliver his 9th win of the year.
There was only one moment. Yeah, congratulations. It's been an amazing comeback from the start of the weekend. But there was one moment in that race that I think we're all a little bit unsure of what happened with the safety car. The lights didn't go out. He went to go and didn't. And in the last corner, he tried to get on the throttle. Big old snaps on the way out. And that was the only moment in the race. It was like, okay.
But you know why that was, though? Because there was an issue with the safety car lights that they didn't go out. And the regulation is you have to stay within a certain car length or so of the safety car. So he couldn't prep for the start. And he was asking, what's going on? And race control couldn't tell us that, the safety car, lights, weren't working, properly. So he was just following the rules. And then, of course, the safety car came in and he's got to go, which gave Lando a run on him, but he kept it all under control.
He could have waited, actually, though, until the start line, couldn't he?
He could have waited a little bit longer, but you've got a split second to make your mind up in a scenario where you're not quite sure, what is that safety car going to come in.
Christian, today it worked in your favor, the race director's decisions, but I know that the drivers have been calling for more consistency, more transparency, all of that stuff. But if you were on the receiving end of what happened to Lando today, would you have felt it was a fair situation about when the safety car came out? Should it have come out earlier? Was it a double wave yellow situation? What is your take on the whole scenario?
Well, look, I felt that, first of all, it was a crazy situation. The tyres were getting faster and faster, and everybody's basically waiting for a puncture and a safety car, because you don't want to lose that track time pitting, in an open race because of that time loss. So could they have brought the safety car out earlier? Yes, they potentially could have done with that debris on the track. It would have neutralised the race at that point in time. But yeah, bizarre situation this weekend with the way that the tyres behaved.
Last question, or a couple of last questions here from me, Christian. Another DNF for Checo. You're now confirmed as being third in the constructors. Number one, how much of an advantage actually is that going to be for next year? Bearing in mind you've just won the drive, you've got a bit more CFD and wind tunnel time. And the other one is, if you are going to make a change with Checo, I know he's got a contract to the end of next year. Next week is the last race of the year. Would you like to give him the opportunity to kind of take the decision himself, or is that being presumptuous from our part?
Well, look, first of all, we've won 9 Grand Prix this year to 5 of any other team. Now, all of those 9 races have come with Max, whereas every other team has split between 2 drivers. And I think that to be third, we've still got half a chance of second, but it's a massively long shot. We're out of the constructors, and yeah, that's very frustrating, because that's where obviously the financial revenues are distributed on. But it does give us more wind tunnel time if you look at a glass half full perspective, that with a brand new set of regulations coming in 26, it gives us a little bit more wind tunnel time to accommodate those new regs. Now, look, Checo's been a wonderful driver for us. Certainly in 21, 22, 23, he contributed to Max's championship obviously in 21, constructors championships in 22, 23, and most of all, he's a great guy, and he's not enjoying the situation that he's in at the moment. He knows the pressures of this business, and we're going to give him all the support that we can to the checkered flag in Abu Dhabi next weekend, and what he decides to do, that will be his decision at the end of the day. And so
not yours, it will be
his. I think that he's old enough and wise enough to come to his own conclusions, but there's still a race to go, and let's get to the end of Abu Dhabi and then see where we're at.
Thank you, Christian. Appreciate it. Congratulations today on the victory, because it is Max that's picked up his 9th win.
Still, George, not the result you're obviously coming into this race hoping for. Had you held the lead at the end of lap 1, would it have been different, or did you maybe just not have the pace today?
No, we didn't have the pace today, and don't really know why that was. Even after the pit stop, I couldn't get back through Fernando. I was doing the same pace as Joe. The speed we had on Friday and Saturday just seemed to totally disappear today for both Lewis and I, so we need to understand why that was.
Yeah, the slow pit stop as well, and maybe no fresh medium tyres. Was that the reason for going on the hards in the final stint? Maybe that wouldn't have made that much difference either.
No, it probably wouldn't have made much difference. It would have helped on that initial safety car restart. You saw how dicey it was for everyone. I was wanting to put the mediums on. Nevertheless, I think P4 was probably a better result than we deserved.
Any question about the debris on the track and maybe a safety car when there was a mirror that was on it?
I got to be honest. I mean, I was
cleared off.
I was right up behind Fernando, so I didn't actually see the debris. Yeah. It's easy in hindsight to say it should have been cleared, but the problem is you can't put a virtual safety car because the cars are all spread evenly around the track, and then it's probably too extreme to put a safety car for a tiny bit of debris. So, not an easy call. Thank you.
Well, Lewis, you're a very positive person. I mean, that was a tough day at the office. Is that the only way you kind of rationalise it in your own head, a day like today?
Yeah, I mean, it was just, just didn't really go that great, but these things happen. Don't judge me by how many times I fall, but I'm going to get up tomorrow and give it another go.
The pace of the car itself, I mean, George wasn't really able to make much of an impression at the front. Once or twice you asked for your own, delta to the leaders, as it were. It's still a hot and cold car, this has been over the course of the year, would you still say?
Yeah, the car and I don't get along really that well. But, I mean, we were very, very far off at the beginning. And, we didn't have enough wing in to start with. The cars are quite different, and it wasn't really great to drive. So, but my fault today. So apologies to the team for the full start and then pit lane incident.
It's a wonderful association you've had with Mercedes. It's good this isn't the last weekend. There's another weekend to leave on a much better note.
I'm not thinking about it, honestly. Even if it finishes like this weekend, I don't think that that doesn't define the journey that we've been on and the journey that we've had. But I'll give it everything I can.
So your drivers are in the interview pen down there. I haven't heard what they have to say, but I imagine they're pretty miffed by everything that happened today. What's your view?
Yeah, that was not such a good day in the office. We lost all the balance in the car from yesterday to today. Horrific understeer with both of them, and simply the pace was gone, which is weird to understand. Same track conditions, more grip today, so maybe we fall back to our usual problem. But in any case, yeah, and the mistakes that we collectively made, the drivers, the team, yeah, a lot to look at.
Was there, I think George was thinking before, it seems so much happened, that maybe a medium might have lasted to the end. Was that ever a possibility on one of those safety cars?
Yeah, as it seems, probably the medium would have been the better tire to the end, and we are going to analyze it and look at it, but probably that we should have put the medium on the car.
Okay. The consistency of stewarding penalties is a topic of discussion. Lewis got a drive-through penalty for something speeding in the pit lane that's normally just a 5-second added to a race time. How have you sort of understood that penalty?
No, I think the penalties. The penalties were brutal, particularly to McLaren, can cost the championship. I don't know what the infringement exactly was, and I think most important is there is consistency. And if the race director comes in and he has a hard stance, that's okay, as long as everybody knows that's the hard stance, and you need to apply to it.
Okay.
Comply to it.
Yeah. Of course, it's the race director then adds it to the stewards who make their decision. Okay, thanks very much. We'll see you in Abu Dhabi.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Couple of things to pick up on. A, it wasn't meant to end this way, was it, for Lewis Hamilton? B, just look, Bertie, what Toto was saying, absolutely brutal, could cost them a championship with the brutality of the decisions against McLaren today. That's interesting to hear from another team principal.
Yeah, it is interesting to hear, but the stewards have a list of recommended penalties for different infringements. And if I look at the recommended penalty for speeding in the pit lane infringement, Lewis got the right penalty if he's between 6 and 15 kph over the limit. So yes, it seems harsh versus what we normally see, but normally people aren't more than 6 kph over the limit. Normally they're a very, very small amount over the limit, which is why we normally see a lower penalty. So that's the first thing to say on that. The double waved yellow for Norris, we can discuss whether it should have been a double waved yellow or not, but again, he was given the penalty that is recommended for a double waved yellow not lifted in the race. So I don't think, in my opinion, that the harshness of the penalties has changed with the new race directors. The penalties are given out by the stewards, and they are, I think, to the guidelines. Now, the race director is more responsible for it being a double waved yellow or whether the safety car come out, and those things are different to normal. So that's maybe a better way to look at it.
I think so. I mean, it's the safety car issue. I think should that have come out earlier, perhaps that may have changed if with a different race director. But on Lewis, on that subject, is at one point he was saying, "I'm just going to stop the car. I want to retire the car." But then, whatever happened, he was talked round and finishes probably the way he would want to finish. At least he's doing that for his team.
Yeah, he was actually asked to pit and retire the car, and he didn't in the end. So it's nice to see. Nice to see him fighting back through. But he's right. Whatever happens in the next race, it's not going to define his career at Mercedes. These two races aren't the ones that people are going to remember. They're going to remember what he achieved and the 7 World Championships.
Naomi?
Yeah, when you think of Michael Schumacher, you think of Ferrari, despite the fact that he ended his career at Mercedes. So I think he'll always be remembered as this incredible driver who had an incredible stint at Mercedes. But you understand why someone of his experience, his achievement level, would be so frustrated in that moment. I mean, what are you fighting for at that point? I know there weren't very many cars left on track, and you could probably close the gap back into the points, but you understand why Lewis was in that headspace of frustration. But as Jensen says, it was great to see him just stick with it and carry on to the end.
Let's head up there, being the press conference, and Max Verstappen has had this to say about George.
Honestly, I mean, I couldn't believe that I got it. But in a way, I was also like, yeah, I'm not surprised anymore in the world that I live in. So, yeah, you're not happy with it, but at one point also you have to just turn the page. But yeah, it wasn't it wasn't very enjoyable to see that happen, because I think that's the first time that in the slow lap someone has been penalized. Well, actually, I just tried to be nice, so maybe I shouldn't be nice. But the thing is that, you know, well, being nice, because we're at the end of the season, everything is more or less decided, especially for me, especially. I didn't want to screw anyone over to prepare their lap. And by doing that, you know, being nice, basically you get a penalty. And that's what I tried to explain as well. But I just felt like I was talking to a brick wall, so there's not much that was possible for whatever reason. Well, I think I really spoke about valid reasons of what happened, and it was clear cut that around me there were different scenarios going on as well, with people having colder tires and stuff, so they had to push anyway, and I didn't want to then cause a scene into a last corner and then, you know, no one had a lap, so very, very surprising. And then the second part of the question, yeah, I was quite surprised when sitting there in the stewards room what was all going on. Honestly, very disappointing, because I think we're all here, we respect each other a lot. And of course, I've been in that meeting room many times in my life, in my career, with, you know, people that I've raced, and I've never seen someone trying to screw someone over that hard. And that's, for me, I lost all respect.
And he is talking about George there. Not that you heard him mention it, but the question was leading into that. No, I mean, I don't know how easily Max forgives and forgets, but I should imagine he's got the memory of an elephant.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to forget that at all, from what we hear anyway, and I'm not going to repeat the words. I don't know if the FIA will give me a fine if I repeat the words, but I think Max had a word with George before or after they left the stewards room yesterday, and I think he made the message very clear that he should watch his back.
They paddle together, don't they?
Not anymore.
They might not be now.
Anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tricky situation, isn't it? We've talked about it for quite a long time, what happened in qualifying, but I think when you get in when you get in there and you actually put your comments down of what happened and your opinions, and you're that aggressive against someone else, it's quite difficult as a racing driver, because you're all out there trying to do your best in a dangerous sport. So yeah, it's a tough one.
Bernie?
Yeah, I was just going to say it's going to be hard for them to recover. They've got one race, and then maybe over the winter with a bit of downtime, who knows what will happen over that. But everyone's passionate, everyone's the best, and I think the difficulty for Max, what he needs to get out of his head maybe going into next year, is a them against us situation. He needs to not think that everyone is against him in that, and hopefully he can reset and go forward.
Off the respective Christmas card lists. Quick one onto Abu Dhabi. As we said, constructors still to be decided, and Lando and Charles for second. What do we think is going to happen?
Look, I think McLaren, I should say rather, are clearly in the better position going into Abu Dhabi. Even if it will be tighter with them there, I think they should be able to seal it off.
Yeah, it's going to be a close one, because I think it is more of a Ferrari track. So it's, you know, it's a very stop-start, very like Vegas. So it's going to be a fight until the end, which is what we want, right?
I think I'm going to split. I think McLaren will get the constructors' position, but Leclerc will get the P2.
Thank you all three of you. I think that's it, isn't it? We're no more from you three until next year, but pleasure. Have a great Christmas. And thanks to Bernie, thanks to Joseph, thanks to Naomi, thanks to you at home. Ted's notebook is next, as you can see, but Max Verstappen has won 9 races this year. Well done to him, and we'll see you for the last race of the year in Abu Dhabi next weekend. From us all here. Bye-bye.